Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Melissa Schaff, Senior Marketing Manager at Ivanti, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's demo, Minimize Threat Exposure with a Risk-Based Approach to Vulnerability and Patch Management. This presentation will take about 25 minutes, and we will have a live Q&A at the end, so please be sure to enter any questions you have throughout the presentation into the Q&A box. I'm also pleased to introduce our presenter today, James Saturnio, Technical Product Marketing Director here at Ivanti. James, over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is James Saturnio, like Melissa said, and I am Ivanti's Technical Product Marketing Director for Endpoint Security Products. Today, we're going to be discussing how to minimize threat exposure with a risk-based approach to vulnerability and patch management. But before we begin, I just wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, this presentation plus other related content and materials are available for download within the resource section of this On24 platform. Second, we've got some subject matter experts, monitoring this chat. Plus, we've allotted some time at the end for Q&A. And so go ahead and enter your questions via the chat or Q&A sections, and we will do our best to get to all of them. We'll also be launching some poll questions throughout the presentation, so be sure to look for those. We'll also, finally, the session will be about 25, 30 minutes long, but we'll be sending out this recording afterward if you do need to drop off early. And with that, let's go ahead and dive in. First, we'll start with some good news and some bad news. First, the bad news. As shown here, the percentage of the 160,000 vulnerabilities within the NVD that are tied to ransomware is extremely small. And even a smaller percentage, did that out of sequence here. First, the bad news. The NVD currently contains over 160,000 vulnerabilities, and dozens more are added every day. And now the good news, like I was talking about earlier, organizations do not need to remediate every vulnerability and weakness. And as shown here, the percentage of the 160,000 plus vulnerabilities within the NVD are tied to, our small amount is tied to ransomware, are extremely small. And then even a smaller percentage are trending or active exploits. However, unfortunately, there's one more piece of bad news. Identifying select vulnerabilities and weaknesses that pose your organization significant risk is difficult for organizations relying on legacy approaches to vulnerability management. That point leads us to our first poll question, which is really more of a quiz question, and that is, what percentage of ransomware vulnerabilities are not rated critical under Common Vulnerability Scoring System, or CVSS version 3? And the options are 38%, option B is 55%, option C is 74%, option D is 82%. So go ahead and cast your answers. We'll track it live here. Well, okay, looks like we've got a little glitch with the polling, but the actual answer is option C. Okay, oh, now it is. Now we see it. Okay, the choice apparently is option D, 82%, which ironically is incorrect. It is actually 74%. So that is the third most popular answer. So, okay. Let's keep going here. Here's some data that helps show why organizations relying on legacy approaches to vulnerability management struggle to identify the select vulnerabilities and weaknesses that pose them significant risk. As we revealed in our poll, patching only critical vulnerabilities based on CVSS version 3 would cause an organization to miss out on patching 74% of ransomware vulnerabilities. And patching only new vulnerabilities is similarly insufficient, as 76% of current ransomware vulnerabilities were identified before 2020. and the patching vulnerabilities only after they have been added to the CISA known exploited vulnerabilities catalog is also problematic, as there are 156 ransomware vulnerabilities currently missing from that catalog. And further complicating matters is the fact that organizations usually can't even begin prioritizing vulnerabilities and weaknesses for remediation until after the data has been gathered from a range of disparate sources, everything from internal scanners to external threat intelligence sources. And that data has to be normalized and prepared for use. And these tasks are often conducted manually and can take weeks to complete. And worse yet, as indicated in this diagram, they represent just a portion of the never-ending process of vulnerability scanning, data gathering, result interpretation, prioritizing, patching, reporting, and so on. And that organizations reliant on legacy vulnerability management practices follow to manage their cybersecurity posture. And this process is simply too inefficient and ineffective to properly protect organizations against modern cyber threats. And as the situation weren't already difficult enough, security and IT decision makers actually cite the lack of cooperation between the teams as the top challenge they face as they attempt to defend against cyber attacks. And clearly, a better way is needed, one that enables teams to focus on those select vulnerabilities that put their organizations at risk, one that replaces manual vulnerability management processes with automation to minimize errors and mean time to remediation, and one that breaks down the walls between IT and the security teams to ensure a truly critical vulnerabilities are resolved in a timely manner. And I'm going to demonstrate how this way is achievable through the use of modern risk-based vulnerability and patch management tools. But before we get started on the demo, let's do one more quick poll question. That is, does your organization's cybersecurity team have a method to prioritize which vulnerabilities to patch? Is the answer A, yes, it's documented? B, yes, but it's not documented? No, or unsure? Okay, wow, it's evenly spread. 25% for every single one. That's actually kind of intriguing here. 25% for all of these. For some reason, I was going to think it was yes, but it's not documented. But apparently, it's evenly spread. So let's go ahead and move on to the demo, the actual demo. So anyway, here we go. Ivanti Neurons for Risk-Based Vulnerability Management is our risk-based vulnerability management power tool that lets your security operations center and security teams quickly move from detection of vulnerabilities to remediating them within minutes to reduce your organization's attack surface. And we start off here in the executive dashboard, which provides an overview of an organization's risk profile, which is great for the C-suite audience. And the Ivanti RS3 widget that shows an organization's overall Ivanti RS3 score, including separate host and application scores. The Ivanti RS3 is a proprietary scoring methodology that provides a quantified view of an organization's risk profile, which is similar to your credit score. And the score falls within the range of 300 to 850, and the higher the score indicates better overall security against cyber threats and exploits, reducing your organization's overall risk. The RS3 scoring methodology considers 4 elements: vulnerability risk rating, business criticality of an asset, accessibility, and threat intelligence is provided by Ivanti Neurons for vulnerability knowledge base, which is another component of Ivanti's risk-based solution. And back to the executive dashboard, the filter overview widgets offer a glimpse into how particular threats, for example, those with the cybersecurity infrastructure and security agencies, known exploited vulnerabilities catalog manifest themselves within an organization's environment. And the executive dashboard includes the findings prioritization funnel, which truly illustrates the overall value that Ivanti neurons for RBVM deliver. And as you can see in this environment, the solutions were able to narrow down 643 total findings at the left, which is the top of the funnel, to just 1,037 that are associated with trending vulnerabilities. And with this intel, the organization can then prioritize its remediation efforts to the less than 0.2% of findings that pose their organization the most risk. And now, getting to the features for security analysts and the SOC, specifically people within the trenches that fight the cyber attacks on a daily basis, we'll take a look at some of these automations that streamline vulnerability management processes. Playbooks enable users to automate common or repetitive tasks. For example, managing assets, prioritizing remediation efforts, and tracking remediation progress on specific assets so they can focus their time and effort on remediation actions rather than administration. And the playbooks page lists all playbooks in the system and provides the following information: the name, rules, which is the number of actions within the playbook, frequency, how often actions are executed, and schedule, which is the designated day and time in which actions actually take place, and status, whether the playbook is enabled or disabled. And clicking through to a specific playbook allows users to view and edit a playbook's or that playbook's rules. And service level agreements represent the amount of time an individual vulnerability can exist within an organization until it is required to be remediated. And manually setting due dates is tedious since the dates must be set on a per vulnerability level. And SLA automation solves this problem and allows the SOC to have the system set due dates on mass collections of findings that represent when they must be closed by standard remediation, marking as a false positive, or accepting the risk based on criteria specified by the organization. For example, VRR, asset criticality, or the date of the finding discovery. And the risk tolerance matrix is the heart of the SLA system, and it represents exactly how much time your organization has to remediate a finding based on that finding's risk score, as well as the criticality of the asset containing it. Those with a vulnerability risk rating of critical, an asset criticality of 5 will require an SLA of 7 days or sooner. The prioritization dashboard lets you quickly observe remediation progress and easily determine where efforts should be directed. Security teams can use it as a springboard to create a list of vulnerabilities prioritized based on that risk. And there are many ways to accomplish this using Ivanti neurons for RBVM. The open findings funnel aids with the prioritization of high-risk findings, and one of the many visual queries that lets users drill down further for more detailed data. Here within the RCE PE number, within the funnel, will take you to the host findings view with a filter applied, so only findings associated with remote code execution and or privilege escalation are displayed. And here's the list of host findings associated with remote code execution or privilege escalation exploits, and the vulnerability risk rating of 10 or critical in this case. And still seeing a high number of findings with just RCEP filters applied, then apply a quick filter to filter down to those RCEP findings that are also associated with ransomware. The group by function pivots the data and will arrange the listing by asset criticality. And drilling down once more to view only findings associated with the most critical assets within your environment, which employs a combination of filters that has been narrowed down to the total number of findings to a much more manageable number. The admin can opt to create a ticket within a service management platform like Ivanti Neurons for IT service management to follow the configuration change management process instead of patching critical assets quickly if their company policy dictates. But instead, as part of the SOC or the security team, we're going to export this list for handoff to the IT team for remediation right away. I've gone ahead and created a host findings export template ahead of time, and we'll reuse that to export the list of critical CVEs that we want the IT team to patch right away. And I'll go ahead and download the exported list file and then import it into Ivanti Neurons for patch management. Now we are in Ivanti Neurons for patch management, which is a patch management tool that can be utilized by the IT team and enables them to prioritize and patch vulnerabilities based on active risk exposure, patch reliability, and device compliance. And here within the patch intelligence view, this tool provides most of the intelligence IT teams need to make risk-based patching decisions. And the All Patches tab is the full Ivanti Neurons patch content catalog experience. The My Environment tab takes the full Ivanti Neurons for patch management content catalog and focuses it down to the patches that are relevant to the patches within your environment. Now I'm going to upload a list of ransomware CVEs exported from Ivanti Neurons for RBVM into Ivanti Neurons for patch management so that the IT team can see the CVEs the security team wants them to patch. When you import the list of CVEs into Ivanti Neurons for patch management, it will automatically extract the CVEs, then determine which patches are related to each CVE, and display those patches for review. You then select which patches to add to a patch group, and then use that patch group within your scans and deployments. The simple process enables the security and IT teams to work together using Ivanti offerings to prioritize and remediate the riskiest vulnerabilities within their environment. And the green import notification banner states that there are 1,035 CVEs that match, and then lists the 8 patches at the bottom that meet the asset option categories that can be applied to my environment. And you can either deploy these patches right away or view patch intelligence first. The devices exceeding SLA widget helps you ensure devices remain in compliance and provides visibility into devices nearing or exceeding service level agreement. And now we're reviewing the patch intelligence associated with CVEs prioritized by the security team. The patch reliability and social insights are derived from anonymized deployment data and crowdsourced social sentiment data. The reliability column indicates that the reliability of the patch deployed in real-world environments. The trending column indicates the level of social media attention a patch is receiving. And this intelligence signals when a patch is prone to fail and cause downtime, letting the IT and security teams know when a temporary mitigation may be required until vulnerability can be remediated with a reliable patch. Intelligence of unknown exploits and threat context for vulnerabilities lets the IT team prioritize remediation based on adversarial risk. And even in the case where the security team has already provided a prioritized list of vulnerabilities, the IT team can prioritize which patches to deploy first on the threats and risks associated with the vulnerabilities fixed by a particular patch. The VRR group column provides the VRR group associated with a patch based on vulnerabilities it addresses. And the CVE count the CVE count column shows the number of CVEs associated with a selected patch. And the bug icon in the CVE count column indicates at least one vulnerability associated with this patch has been exploited. The information and users have the ability to drill down for additional intelligence on each patch. The information in this view includes the CVE ID column, which also shows all vulnerabilities resolved by this patch, the vulnerability risk rating group associated with each vulnerability, the VRR score for each vulnerability, and VRR and other vulnerability intelligence provided to the security team within Ivanti Neurons for RBVM is also made available to the IT team in Ivanti Neurons for patch management. And this shared visibility levels the playing field between the two teams and ensures both teams are on the same page about the true risks certain vulnerabilities posed to the organization versus the security team handing off a list of CVEs and IT just accepting that the security team's word for it. Both V2 and V3 CVS scores are also displayed and provide additional vulnerability scoring data points. The exploit published column displays the date the exploit was published. The exploits column displays the types of exploits associated with each vulnerability. For example, remote code execution, privilege escalation or denial of service. And the malware column shows the type of malware associated with each vulnerability. And for the example here, you've got ransomware and exploit kits. And the final step is to select the 8 critical security patches and assign them to a patch group that has an active patch configuration so that these patches will get deployed and installed to the critical business assets as soon as possible. And this concludes the demo segment of the webinar. And as you've seen, Ivanti's risk-based vulnerability and patch management section or solution transforms the previously unmanageable prioritization and patching processes through the application of automation and intelligence. And now we're going to move on to the questions and answers.
Thanks, James. We have had a few questions come in. I'm going to start, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, with Paul's question. It says, we currently use Ivanti SEC or Ivanti SEC. How does that fit into all of this?
For existing on-prem patch customers, we offer a hybrid configuration between on-prem patch products and Ivanti Neurons that allows you to transition to the cloud at your own pace instead of being forced to rip and replace. Hybrid configurations is enabled by available connections between on-prem Ivanti patch products and Ivanti Neurons that provides visibility to all the devices in your environment within Neurons.
And I think this leads, or you may have just answered this one as well from Michael. Is there an integration available between these two products?
Yes, there will be. There will be we'll be releasing a CVE to Patch Group API for Ivanti Neurons for patch management shortly. I think we're looking at hopefully the June timeframe. And I think we have PM on as a subject matter expert also, but an API can be used to automatically import the list of CVEs and create and add it to the patch group. Basically, what I demonstrated, the ability to export a list, then upload it into patch management or patch intelligence, that will be automated. There will be an API.
And then Robert asks, how often do you update your threat intelligence data regarding ransomware, exploits, trending vulnerabilities, etc.?
We update the intelligence data real time within Ivanti Neurons. Well, we actually use Ivanti Neurons for vulnerability knowledge base, and all that data is pulled into Ivanti Neurons for RBVM instantly.
And then from Scott, I'm using one of Ivanti's on-prem patch solutions today. How does the path work if I'm migrating to Ivanti Neurons?
I think I answered that in the first question, right? We're going to offer a hybrid configuration between the on-prem patch and Ivanti Neurons. So they'll be able to transition at their own pace. So there will be a migration path. Absolutely.
We have just a few more. Matt asks, does Neurons for RBVM offer application security?
Absolutely. Well, okay. There is a Ivanti Neurons for risk-based vulnerability management is more of the infrastructure and network scanning capability There is also another module. We didn't emphasize it in this, but we have the ability to look at both network and hosts as well as application security, and that is Ivanti neurons for ASOC, or application security orchestration and correlation. That is a product. Quite honestly, the two products are joined at the hip. So you've got Ivanti neurons for RBVM, Ivanti neurons for ASOC, and both of the products are joined at the hip. So if you recall in one of the first screenshots here, there was the widget for RS3 that gives you a score for host findings, which is really the RBVM piece. And then there's one for applications or apps, and that is the application security orchestration and correlation part. So absolutely, yes. We didn't cover it in this presentation, but there is a lot of integrations. There's over 100 different type of network and application security scanners, the compliance, automated ticketing. There's all types of integrations. What I can do is I can take a screenshot, or I can follow up with this question, but there is an actual integrations, and it lists the over 100 different integrations that we have with network, application, ticketing systems, asset management, and compliance. So yes, absolutely, there are integrations. I wanted to show that in real time, but apparently I can't show my screen real time here. Our resources. This basically the presentation, and the presentation I just presented. You can download it, and here are basically the resources. And I got to give a shout out to my PMM colleague, Robert Waters, who probably put together a lot of these resources.
Wonderful, James. Thank you so much for the presentation today and the demo. Thank you all for joining. This presentation will be on demand as well, and you will also receive a recording of it that you can either refer back to or share with colleagues. Otherwise, thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.